Will the country get another financial boost as government officials work on plans for the new normal? The Asian Development Bank has approved a new loan worth 200 million US dollars, or around 10 billion pesos, to help poor families. This is on top of a previous grant and loan given by the multilateral lender to the country. Social welfare officials earlier said over 7 million families have received cash subsidy from the government, but admit funds are running low for the financial aid program. Let's hear more about ADB's initiatives from Kelly Bird, the country director for the Philippines. Mr. Bird, thank you so much for joining us. The loan is for, quote, cash subsidies for vulnerable household. Does this, Mr. Bird, include the middle class? They've been impacted as well by this COVID-19 pandemic.
Good evening, Rico. Now, this loan that we approved today, $200 million loan, comes under our social protection support project, which has been a project that's been ongoing for a number of years. The $200 million itself is to fund or help DSWD in the financing of their emergency subsidies to the 18 million families. Specifically, though, this loan targets the COVID cash grants to the 3.4 million families under DSWD's Conditional Cash Transfer Program, or 4Ps. And this is a program that's now been running since 2010.
So you have the $200 million loan, Mr. Bird, on top of the $1.5 billion loan, and of course the $8 million grant. So is the ADB concerned that this coronavirus will increase the number of poor in the country and reduce the middle class after COVID-19?
Well, ADB's package of assistance has been closely developed with the Department of Finance, and it's really aimed at mitigating the worst effects of the health crisis, but also those effects on the well-being of Filipinos. So yes, it is designed to protect the gains the government has made in reducing poverty in the last 3 or 4 years. And from the poverty statistics last year, almost 6 million Filipinos escaped poverty between 2015 and 2018. So with this crisis, those gains are threatened, and the government's COVID response program is designed to mitigate that. And ADB's loans are there to help finance some of those programs to achieve that purpose of protecting those gains that have been made in recent years.
Mr. Bird, how do you make sure that this money is well spent? Will ADB monitoring how this is distributed?
Well, let me talk about some of the different packages. So the $1.5 billion is budget support. So it goes to the Treasury. It's commingled with their taxes, and it's used to finance the national government budget, including support financing the government's fiscal stimulus programs, but it's not earmarked to a particular program. But of course, behind this loan is government's COVID response package. The combined package is about $29 billion. But in this $1.5 billion loan, we looked at a portion of the government's response package. That's about $12 billion. In that package, the government's got some well-designed, well-targeted programs. For example, the wage subsidy program to small businesses, the emergency subsidies to the poor are also, well-designed and targeted. In times like this, there are always going to be challenges in implementation. For a number of reasons.
Right.
Private sector, the government's working on a skeleton workforce. You've got to have the social distancing measures. These are kind of typical problems that every country is experiencing. But the government's got a very good public financial management system in place. And they also have a very good, monitoring system in place. with that, we're very confident that these will be well-targeted programs.
And briefly, Mr. Bird, before we let you go, if the government needs more funding, they've said they're running out of money, will the ADB lend the Philippines more money on top of what you've already loaned to the government?
Well, we have our COVID response package, $1.5 billion. We have the $200 million today. We're also looking at a health sector project, around $100 million to scale up the government's health response. But in addition to that, we also have our normal pre-COVID lending program with the Philippines, and that's $3 billion. So we are continuing to prepare those programs, projects, and they remain on track for approval this year.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word. Asian Development Bank's Country Director for the Philippines, Kelly Bird.